What's up? Welcome to the Marsh Pod. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Great episode today. Want to talk about the Seattle pickup game. I thought there was a lot of kind of unique things to come about it. We had some of our bigger names like DJ Childs, Cody Johnson in action. So gonna try a couple things with that. That we'll get to in a second. But first, I actually wanted to talk about the schedule that was announced earlier this week on the 15th about the upcoming kind of notable dates and what they all kind of mean, and truthfully, a lot of excitement around it. We've seen a lot of pickup games, which we'll get to, like I said. But what I'm excited about for this schedule that was outlined, and it's really going to start ramping up here in 4 days, is what this means for the future of SimWorld Hoops. So real quick, if you didn't see it, you probably already did, but October 23rd, that's 4 days from now, that's this Sunday, that's going to be the pre-commit deadline. November 1st, official recruiting period begins. December 1st, the season schedule is unveiled. January 16th, we get team scrimmages. February 1st, official recruiting period ends, and then, of course, March 1st, season 1 begins. I want to start with the pre-commit deadline and basically to carry that over into the recruiting period opening. This is exactly what this league needs. Okay, last season, call it year zero if you will, was really just a creation of teams and an opportunity to coach some already developed teams. But as we saw this summer, this is not a final product, right? And we saw some big names, most notably Tyson Simpson, going from the north now to beyond the arc. That is indicative of what this looks like, and I think it's a huge opportunity for the coaches, both new, old, and incoming, to take incredible advantage of some of these unique talents. The biggest issue that we saw a lot of coaches and teams run into last year, and I kind of touched on this on Tuesday's pod when talking about Brian Loveless, is they want to have a specific approach to a team and a game plan, but they don't have the organization to do it. And I don't mean the organizational skills, but rather the pieces of the puzzle to actually do that. Recruiting will allow that to happen. So we can talk about, hey, Brian Loveless, you didn't really execute with an elite guard and a decent number 2 guard on your team. And guess what? The team that you're going to looks the exact same. Now comes the opportunity for Coach Loveless and other coaches to say, this is the type of system I want to run, and this is where I'm going to get the pieces to go out and do it. To that end, we see other coaches, like head coach Tim Blardy now with Gotham 5, they build the system around the player. And look, spoiler alert, I'm a big fan and I'm a big proponent of coaches and organizations that take that approach. Do not say, I am running system A and I'm running system A only, and not make the necessary adjustments for what your roster looks like. And I thought Blardy did a phenomenal job of saying, this is what's at my disposal. This is the type of offense and defense I'm going to run as a result of that. And he had an incredible regular season. Obviously, the upset in the national tournament is what sticks in your mind, but it doesn't, unless this is just the beginning of a Doc Rivers-like career, that doesn't indicate that he's not capable of doing that. So for any coach now, you could say, this is the type of system I want to run, or you say, hey, I've got this type of player that runs a very specific type of way or excels in a specific system. Something like CKC, who excelled in a 5-out, give me the ball, let me just go ISO and attack. You still need some other pieces to make that work, but now you have an opportunity to build a roster that fits that. Maybe you want to do a lot of pick and roll and you've got a phenomenal P&R ball handler. Maybe you want to run a Warrior-style offense and you've got Trey Turner on your team. Hell, it's going to make it a lot easier to do that. So this recruiting period, I think, is a phenomenal opportunity, not only for the league, but also for the coaches, and I'm excited to see that. What I think will be very interesting is we're going to have a 2-week period from January 16th through February 1st. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see that 2-week period, what coaches do. So on the 16th of January, team scrimmages begin. February 1st, their official recruiting period ends. Teams are going to get an idea, and coaches are going to get an idea of what their team looks like on January 16th. Come February 1st, I would expect to see a lot of recruiting ramp up for the players that are left. If you are trying to run a system, you say, let's say you need a shooter at the 2. Let's just say, hypothetical. You think you have that guy on your roster on January 16th. Your team scrimmages begin. You look at that and you start to realize the guy we thought we had isn't the guy that we need. And the recruiting, I think, will really ramp up. I'm excited for that period of time. It's going to be very telling for what coaches are actually paying attention to the needs of their roster. If they go into January 16th with the mindset of this is what I need, this is what I have, and I'm fine, and they don't make an adjustment, then they're failing themselves in the system that they've set up. I think we're going to see coaches saving some time for that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not many big name players left on the board, but it'll almost become where the market for specific players who maybe looked like they were going to be shut out of that are suddenly going to be wide open, and there's going to be a late bidding race is what I would expect to see in those last 2 weeks of January. So that, I think, is very exciting. We're going to get it from November 1st here in a couple weeks. Coaches are going to start to be able to build that. It's going to be first telling of how much they are thinking about that, what type of roster and organization they want to build. And then you move ahead to January. That's when it's going to be very interesting to see which coaches are willing to adapt, which coaches are willing to make the necessary changes to get better, and then go out and see which ones can actually execute on it. It doesn't matter if you're recruiting one player. That doesn't mean you're going to get him. This isn't NCAA 14 where you just jack up your recruiting points to 500 for the 5-star recruit and suddenly you're South Alabama landing the #1 overall recruit. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to put in the work. It'll be interesting to see which coaches do that. So, speaking of scrimmages, wanted to basically just share what I thought about the Seattle pickup game. This will be quick. I'd like to do this for some of these games. I'm not going to tell you how often it's going to come because I don't know, but it's really going to come down to what pickup game really catches my eye. And there's been a lot of them, so don't think that I'm sitting here telling you Seattle was the pickup game and the other ones were of any less value. I think they all have immense value. I just really like this one, and yeah, I don't know that this is going to be a named segment, but yeah, we're just going to go through it. So, couple of notes. Ryan Fugate, hopefully we're getting that name pronounced right, out of Oregon. A ton of ball stopping from him. A ton of it. Way too much in that game. Did the ball swing to him, and he just sat there doing triple threat pump fakes like he's about to take off. He just sat there. The shot clock bled. There was no off-ball movement. I know these are pickup games. There's not supposed to be a ton of organization, but he did nothing. That type of approach will not fly beyond high school. So what he needs to do is, you hear this a lot when preached by the Golden State Warriors, is the 0.5. You have 0.5 seconds to make a decision. Am I dribbling? Am I shooting? Am I passing? What am I going to do? Fugate has to do a better job of making a decision and move on. What he did a good job of, he was very good at times as an off-ball cutter. He was much better in that instance. He's got a great first step, which I think is utilized well as a quick cutter, but also when he actually made that first decision, got the ball and took off, he got to the hoop with some pretty good power. So there's got to be some type of change there. Cody Johnson, early on, he looked more powerful than Sherwood on the inside, which, again, shouldn't be a total surprise. Cody Johnson's moving on to the next level. Sherwood is entering into the SimWorld Hoops world. So it's kind of a bad situation for Johnson, where you either dominate a lesser player, as you should, or you get beat where you shouldn't. The problem was that as the game rolled on, he kind of started fading into the background. There was one point where he just got completely stuffed on a post-up by Benedict. That can't happen. And so, again, this is kind of a situation where it started off, I was like, yeah, duh, man, you should be doing well. But by the end of it, was kind of nervous that I just stopped paying attention to Cody Johnson because he wasn't doing anything. Some of that could be the fact that he's playing with a guy like Fugate, who we talked about, who's a very on-ball player, didn't make a lot of movement there. He has DJ Childs, who we'll get to in a second, on his team. But I walked away saying, why was Cody Johnson there? Because I barely noticed, and that's not a good thing. He started fading into the background. You don't want to see that. Speaking of Sherwood, had a nice post-up. He showed off some pretty good post activity. Nice post hop fade at one point. He had a pretty decent post jumper over a smaller defender later on. He wasn't a total factor in the game, but it wasn't as if he was willingly fading. He was very aggressive when he got the ball, and you really like that one a lot. Drew Timme was in there, and I'm going to go Drew Timme first to then introduce Torian Blood, also out of Oregon. Drew Timme he's entering his 4th year at Gonzaga. And he, kind of like Cody Johnson, didn't really do much against talent that he should have dominated. So Drew Timme keeps on getting this name recognition at the college level because he's a good college basketball player. He's really good in the post, which he showed off a ton of here, but he wasn't all that dominant. And I'm kind of wondering, what are we supposed to see from him? He looked like maybe a second-round pick, but he didn't stand out and dominate against high school talent. Yeah, his post moves were far superior. Yeah, when he got in the post, it was great. But just like Cody Johnson, you're supposed to do that. Outside of that, he didn't flash any mind-blowing, mind-changing type of moves. Flip that to Torian Blood. There was a possession where Timme on the defensive end got switched off to Blood, and Blood couldn't drive past him. And again, Timme should be the more superior athlete, purely off his age, but that isn't a great sign, in my opinion, that you can't take a guy like Timme off the dribble, because Timmy's not a great defender on the perimeter, and it's part of the reason why, unless suddenly this is like a come to Jesus moment and he suddenly is, he's never been that guy. That's part of the reason why he's kind of like this. What are we going to get from him at the next level if he does go to NBA or international hoops? Torian Blood, kind of concerned that he didn't look any more dominant. DJ Childs, exactly what you'd expect. He was powerful to the rim, great off the dribble. He has some incredible shots. Not much else needs to be said about DJ Childs. Wright Foreman, very heavy volume, made a lot of questionable decisions as a scorer. Didn't really see a ton of creation from him I'm getting into the paint, I'm finding a cutting big, I'm finding an open man, I'm getting in, I'm condensing the defense to open up an offensive look elsewhere. It was very straight line. Once I get in here, I am shooting the ball, and that's about it. So would like to see a little bit more from him that's more obvious of what he's doing versus just ISO ball, ISO ball, ISO ball. Again, talked about it at the top. These are pickup games. You're not going to see a ton of players in a system running DHOs, running organized plays or pick and rolls. I get that, but you would have liked to see a little bit more than just straight line, questionable pull-up jumpers with a hand in the face. I know you hit a couple, but I don't love all that. 3 players that all faded to the background, and I forgot were out there outside of a question mark where I said, why did that just happen? Benedict, Blood, and Eads, all of them faded into the background, just like Cody Johnson did after a decent start from him. Not a great sign when you're trying to figure out who you are. Not a great sign when you need to figure out and you need to start getting name recognition. The question marks on you should not come about when I'm wondering why you can't take Drew Timme off the bounce. But those 3 all kind of faded in, didn't really impress me. I shouldn't forget that you're out there. And not just me, but anyone. Any scout, any person watching a basketball game should not forget that you're out there. I understand there's some big names. DJ Childs, Cody Johnson, Drew Timme. Those are big games. But Sherwood found a way to make a difference. Wright Foreman, for better or worse, found a way to make an impression. If you don't make an impression, outside of, like I said, Blood, it was 1 possession, and then it was kind of waiting for him to do anything. That's not a good sign, especially at this point in the career. All right, that's it. We will be back next Tuesday. Thank you as always. We'll catch you then.